If you're live on News at Prime, it's a pleasure to have you with us tonight. I'm Kathy Muhlahlana. ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa has announced that incumbent Education MEC Panyaza Lesufi will take over as Gauteng Premier. It follows David Makhura's resignation from office after 8 years in the role. Lesufi is expected to be voted in during a special sitting of the Gauteng Legislature on Thursday.
Well, the Premier had indicated that he would be willing to step down, and he has resigned. And obviously, we welcome the new Premier, Panyaza Lesufi. I think he's up to the job. He's the new chairperson of Gauteng, and he's going to be well supported by the members of the PEC and by the membership. So it is a smooth transition. The Premier had gone public himself and said that he would be leaving. So there's no drama. It has all been well executed, and we wish the new Premier well. And we wish Makhura well too as he goes forward.
Former Gauteng Premier, Proffesor Mathole Motshekga, joins us for more reaction on the story. Dr. Motshekga, good evening to you. Thank you so much for your time. So it was a couple of weeks back, or can I say in the last month, that the ANC in the province announced that this move was imminent. And the question, of course, is that are these changes always necessary? Does an elective conference mean that government and its stability have to be shaken up in this way?
You know, ANC is a dynamic organization, an organization that is always renewing and revitalizing itself. So what has happened or is happening in Gauteng is in line with the dynamism of the ANC. You know, what President Cyril Ramaphosa said with the support of the entire leadership of the ANC is that the ANC and its government needs people who are fit for purpose. Panyaza is a leader par excellence who is fit for purpose. He has risen through the ranks of both the ANC and government. He has always been the conscience of learners, students represented by COSAS, and students represented by SASCO. No wonder that he rose through the ranks to the office of deputy chair and chair of Gauteng, the most powerful province in South Africa. He is rooted in both the organization and society. Above all, he is a revolutionary par excellence, a disciple of our icon, Comrade Harry Gwala. With Panyaza in office, we are sure that this emerging concept of coalitions which are not working will come to an end, because Panyaza will be able to draw the support of all the Gauteng people, make them realize that we need a center that holds, we need a government, ANC-led government, that actually is respectful of the people, is always willing and able to deliver to the people. So there could not have been a better choice than the choice of Comrade Panyaza. And I can say without fear of doubt that the entire leadership of the ANC, current and past, will throw their weight behind Comrade Panyaza. I knew him when he was still in caucus. I knew him when he was in tertiary institution leadership. I knew him as an activist in Tembisa and in the province. And I think the inauguration of Panyaza as Premier will actually send a good signal that President Ramaphosa's project of renewal is now really taking place both in the ANC and in government we are extremely excited about this development.
Well, there's no hiding your excitement and the fact that, this is somebody who absolutely has at least your vote of approval. What do you think that he will be able to bring to the table that David Makhura did not have, especially given some of the dynamics that you've mentioned about a province like Gauteng, its importance, but also just the shifting landscapes and as far as the local politics is concerned?
Comrade Makhura is a great leader of our organization. But he came into the organization and had to deal with challenges which have been developing over the years. And obviously, if you are a crisis manager, you don't appear to be a visionary leader because you are dealing with a crisis. But because Comrade Makhura has stabilized the situation, that helps Comrade Panyaza to come with a renewal project, both in the ANC and in government. So, so Comrade Panyaza is going to stand on the shoulders of Comrade Makhura and take our renewal process forward.
All right. Motshekga, I'm going to ask you to pause it there. So a glowing review from Mathole Motshekga there. I want to bring in our politics editor, Lukhanyo Calata. Lukhanyo, he speaks about a stability that has taken place and now an opportunity to build and renew the organization even further. This is going into an election where the ANC, if at best, is expected to hang on by a thread, and if not that, is faced with the possibility of coalition governments. Does Panyaza Lesufi really have what it takes to change the minds of the people of Gauteng?
Look, he will have the office of the Premier, and that is a powerful institution to help him do exactly that. Look, the ANC finds itself in a position where, as you correctly point out, that it itself has admitted that it might lose power in 2024. So what it needs people who like Lesufi, Panyaza Lesufi, who's a hard worker. Nobody denies that. To actually then drive the process. He is now the chairperson of the African National Congress in Gauteng. Therefore, he needs to be in office for him to then be able to drive both government as well as the ANC. The office of the Premier allows him to be able to access to levers, access to power, for him to be able to help both the province as well as the ANC's strategy within, obviously, the province to try and retain power come 2024.
None of that is happening in a static environment. Of course, those that are coming from opposition parties and several sectors of society are going to be more than happy to remind us of the fact that under his watch at the Department of Education, over 400 million rand was misspent when it came to the procurement of services for COVID-19 in as far as contracts with schools are concerned. Yes, he was not found of any wrongdoing by the SIU reports, but the point is that he was the man in charge of the department at that time.
And he's going to have to answer for that, Kathy. I think what is happening at this moment is obviously he's, now he's no longer just in charge of one department, but he's moving on to be in charge of the entire government of of Gauteng. Therefore, the responsibility is on him, not just to steer the government correctly, but also to be held responsible for that. And I think it's our job as the media to ultimately, when we have that opportunity to sit down with him, to be able to pose these things to him, to say that under your watch, there was 400 million rand that was misspent during a time when this country was facing one of the worst medical disasters, to have befallen the nation, or the world, basically. So what is he going to do differently now that he's in charge of the entire government? So we're gonna have to hold him accountable, and he's gonna have to answer those questions.
Dr. Motshekga, let me bring you in here and ask, what do you think is the biggest challenge that your party will face going into the 2024 elections?
The biggest challenge, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
The biggest challenge is that, as the President Ramaphosa said, we must get fit people that are fit for purpose to run both the party and government. And I'm saying the elevation of Comrade Panyaza Lesufi is a realization of the dream of our president that we must have people that are fit for purpose. And therefore, if this trend continues, and as the leadership of the African National Congress, we have a responsibility to ensure that within the organization and government, we have people that are fit for purpose. And so Comrade Panyaza will be our role model in that pursuit. But I don't think that he should be judged on the basis of administrative things that did not work, because administrative failures and corruption like these PP things, those fall within the sphere of the state organs like SIU, the Hawks, and they are actually dealing with those matters. So his responsibility was political oversight.
There's no way that he cannot be held accountable for what happened while he was in that office. If we go back, in fact, it's part of the reason why the former MEC of Health in this very province is no longer in that position.
I'm saying he is responsible for political oversight. To that extent, he should be held responsible. But I have no doubt that he has discharged his role as a political overseer, with distinction. So now what we need to do really is to say he's being elevated to a higher position on merit. And as the African National Congress, we are delighted and we have no doubt that he's going to discharge his responsibilities well, and he's going to serve as a role model for the whole country.
All right, so Professor Motshekga, we'll leave it there with you for tonight. And our politics editor, Lukhanyo Calata, still in studio with me. So certainly, there's going to be no wrong that can be seen or even, analyzed, as we heard from Dr. Motshekga, because, well, he believes that Panyaza Lesufi is the right man for the job. Are the residents of the province going to be equally convinced, and how much of his track record is going to feature into that?
Remember, Kathy, that Panyaza Lesufi was once moved out of his portfolio as MEC for Education, and within a week there was a revolt in Gauteng because people were saying no. He has been doing such a stellar job as the MEC for Education. You can't now move him to, I think it was economic development. You can't move him to economic development. And poor Premier David Makhura, had to admit that he maybe had erred, and then he moved Lesufi back. So there is that track record of him having done a stellar job within that department. I think the people of Gauteng, and obviously even in the office, most of them were concerned with who is now going to replace him as MEC for Education. And that, I think, is a valid concern, just because of the fact that Lesufi had done such a good job. As to whether or not he's going to continue to do that when he now leads an entire government, it's one thing to lead a department. It's a completely separate matter to lead a government, and I think we are going to have to wait and see as to whether or not he will be up to the task. Based on what he's done at education, it gives us a good enough indication that maybe he will, he will continue along that path, but we can't be guaranteed that he will be a good premier.
Lukhanyo Calata, our politics editor here at Newzroom Afrika, will leave it there for tonight.